Have you ever wondered what it takes to get to the top of advertising photography world? This week we're talking to one of the best in the business who'll share how he built a successful career by focusing on his unique visual style.
Welcome to Commercial Photographer, your guide to marketing, creativity and growth. This is a podcast that helps professional, commercial, brand and headshot photographers navigate the competitive world of commercial photography with practical advice and actionable strategies to grow your business.
Well, hello there, Sam, and hello, listeners. How are you doing, Sam?
Very good, Marcus. And how are you?
Yeah, I'm really well, thank you. Yeah, very well. Very well indeed. Yeah. And my gosh, what a show we've got lined up for you, Sam. And I have to be really careful here because I'm a bit of a fanboy of our next guest, and so I don't want to come across as too gushing. But on today's show, we've got a photographer I've been following, as I say, for a little while called Giacomet. He's a British advertising photographer, and I think he's one of the people in the photography business who is at the top of their game.
So, in this amazing episode, we're going to deep dive into the art of commercial photography with a true master. You'll come away with three things. First, we're going to discuss the importance of a strong, recognizable photography style and how it can be your most powerful tool. Secondly, we'll look at how important passion projects are and how you can turn them into incredible career opportunities. And finally, we'll talk about the secret behind a successful career and how paying attention to every detail can set you apart from the rest.
So, without any further ado, let him introduce himself. Over to you, Joe.
Hi
there, Marcus. Hi there, Sam. Lovely to meet you both. Thanks for the kind intro. It's very nice. As Marcus said, I'm a photographer, also direct as well. That's more of a recent thing in the last sort of 5-6 years. Sort of mostly work in advertising. I would work in other areas too, but that's just sort of been my focus really. It's sort of the area that's allowed me to do what I want, because I sort of also have like quite a keen interest in doing like personal projects and fine art things. And so getting into advertising has sort of allowed me to sort of, have the, not only sort of focus on ideas from the ads, but also give me like the sort of like spare cash occasionally to kind of focus on sort of more kind of indulgent artistic projects. So
cool.
Joe, maybe for our listeners who don't know you, obviously they're going to find out about you, but for those who don't, maybe we can describe your style, because I think this is what this podcast is going to be about a lot, is style. And your style is like photography on steroids for me. It's uber photography. It just works so well. It's super vibrant. It's quirky, it's funny, it tells great stories, it's just got it all in there. So is that a fair assumption of your work, Joe?
Yeah, I'll take that. It's one of those things I've always struggled with, is like how to describe my work. I mean, my work's quite multifaceted, but what I would say I'm sort of known for is, vibrant, quirky, comedic ideas. I really appreciate what you said by then. That's very nice of you. But I guess like it's sort of been influenced by lots of different things. Like over the years, like I've done a collection of different things throughout my life, and I've sort of studied graphic design for a long time, and I think I also like worked with some quite inspirational people who've been quite influential on me. So like I think just sort of the amalgamation of all these different people, ideas, and experiences sort of has led me to where I am today. It's a hard one to explain. Often people are like, oh, what do you do? I was like, it's just easy to show you a photo. Like, there's like it's 1,000 words or one photo, right? And I'm not that I'm terrible at words, but it's definitely easy.
Yeah, and I looked, and the instant I looked at the site, that humour instantly hit me. Or every shot, that humour comes straight through, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know. I sort of don't take things too seriously, and I think it's like I sort of like, especially when you're shooting ads as well. I mean, I really like shooting funny ads. Often people book me to shoot funny things, and they end up not being funny because they don't like they kind of see the funny, but then they rein it back in, and they end up getting like mildly amusing. But I just sort of like, I think it's there's too much for me. There's a lot of serious stuff out in the world. I think it's nice to do fun things, and sort of like when I go into a photo shoot, I always like at the beginning of the morning, like always, like it sounds a bit weird, but I sort of always try to remind myself like this should be fun. Like we are, we're not. It's like because sometimes it can get quite serious. There's clients' deadlines, and there's all these like moving parts. I'm not saying I've hit this every time. But I had a job last year that got really stressful at one point, just because like it was not going well. But normally I try and like this should be fun. That's like my kind of go-to thing that I try and remind myself. And it is fun. Like I did a shoot yesterday actually, which was really random. I was actually the subject,
Nice.
and my yeah. Although I sort of like my ideas, and I ended up lighting a lot of it. But yeah, I needed some pictures of myself for I've got a new agent coming soon, and they wanted some pictures. So like my girlfriend very kindly agreed to photograph me for it, and so we collaborated on it, and it was really fun. Like we just sort of like went to the studio. I had some loose ideas and had some lighting in the studio, and she added in lots of great things, and it was a really fun day. It sort of reminded me that photography is really fun. Not that I've forgotten, but it's nice to have it refreshed.
Now, if I can press you a little bit further on this, Joe, you say when you start off your early career, you're starting on photography. You did graphics. Did you not study photography, or?
I sort of started off studying graphic design, and I was like, it's a national diploma, sort of the equivalent of an A level, I guess. And like I was more interested in being a designer. And then I sort of did photography as a sort of side hobby, which sort of came off the back from when I used to skate. And so I started off making like skate films in my sort of early teenage years, and then sort of got a camera off my dad, classic story. And then, sort of was doing photography as a bit of a side. And then I sort of suddenly sort of realized that I was like enjoying photography more. So I sort of studied photography at uni, but then I was sort of working more as a graphic designer freelance, and then moved to London, started assisting. And that's where I sort of like really started moving more into photography, and like sort of the graphic design sort of slowly fell by the wayside. And sort of worked with some quite inspirational people who sort of had quite a lot of effect.
Anyone you want to mention, and we can kind of put them in the show notes for people to check out.
I suppose like I was thinking about this before actually. There's like two people who have been like very instrumental in my career. There's like a guy called Mark Denton, who's an art director and director. We started working together like maybe I think we met around 2010 and sort of started working together more properly because I met him when I was an assistant. And anyone who doesn't know Mark should check his work out. He's a genius. And he's had a big impact on me, and he sort of really, I think pre working with him, I sort of was much more focused on the aesthetics and the kind of look of a thing. And he sort of really hammered into me this sort of idea that the idea is key. And I've learned a lot of him over the years. And there's a couple of other people there's like someone who used to rep me called Amanda. She's been very instrumental in my career, and like very grateful for her. She's sort of like helped me more with the business side of things and sort of getting work in. And although she doesn't rep me anymore, just because that's not what she's doing, we still work together, we're still friends. And then there's photographers that I assisted. Like I assisted Julia Fullerton Batten for quite a while, and anyone who knows her work, like she, like working with her, like really kind of pushed my lighting. And there's a few other people. I don't need to go through names, but there's a few other people that I assisted that sort of like really kind of
that's quite
on my way.
An interesting transition there, because I mean the way you're sort of describing it is as if you're almost learning on the job. I'm sure you weren't, but.
No, I mean, absolutely. I mean, like, I think I know maybe this is the more classic model of an assistant, but for me, it was very much a learning thing. I mean, obviously I like making money too, and that helped. But I was quite lucky in that I sort of, when I was an assistant, I was sort of a digi operator, and I sort of specialized in the Leaf camera system, which is a bit defunct now, but a lot of American photographers use Leaf. So I quite often worked with lots of random American photographers that were shooting over in the UK. And obviously, so I sort of worked with all these different people. And you just, I mean, it's the one thing I actually miss the most about assisting. I probably don't want to rattle on too hard about assisting this, but like, It's just the seeing other people work is fascinating. Like, I mean, I hire my studio out sporadically, and like one of the things I enjoy the most about it is sort of sitting in my office and low key, like observing what's going on. I just find it fascinating because everyone works so differently. And it's, I think you can always pick up things from everyone.
Oh, I totally
There's
agree
always
with
little
you. I
tidbits
mean,
here
I
and there.
started off assisting as well, and I still, on every shoot, I go back to the stuff that I learned from when I was assisting. I really think it is very underrated. People just want to get right into just in the marketing or whatever these days, but assisting is just so useful.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I remember like
Yes.
Julia, like anyone knows her work, she uses a lot of lighting, and like I definitely learned a lot from that. I remember going to this, we did this farmer job out in America, and
Whoa.
we had like I think we had 20 packs and heads, and the local American crew were like, "This is ridiculous. We've never seen anything like it." And me and John, her first assistant, because I was a digi, we were like, "Trust me, we're going to run out of heads."
Wow.
We did on every shot. She was like, "I need another light." And like there were these big scenes, but yeah, I mean, I learned so much from that. I mean, it's not how I like now, but it definitely has
She's
influenced
got
me
that
to a
very
certain extent.
Gregory Crucian aesthetic or feel to her work.
And you can,
Yeah, yeah, no,
I was just
definitely, yeah. She uses.
looking at your
Oh,
work as
go
well.
on,
You
sorry.
can kind of see it's the graphic design coming through it. It's not
Yeah.
just there's a lot of design, there's a lot of thought gone into each shot, isn't it? They're very vibrant. They're not just there's some pretty countryside and a person in it. They're very, very designed, and you can see that graphic design side coming through.
Yeah, I mean that's actually one of the things I think a lot of people don't
Of
realize is that
course.
everything is like planned down to a T. And there's always room for like experimentation on the day, but I always like having a really solid plan. Like it's almost like every detail is considered. If there's like a
Yeah.
prop
Yeah.
in the background, I'll have thought about it. And like when I do, obviously the rise of the document for a shoot, which is actually quite good in some ways. Like I mean, every detail will be mapped out.
Totally.
Which is kind of the norm for advertising these days, but also I actually just find it very useful because it makes you think about things. I mean, the only thing is sometimes it can be a little bit too prescriptive. Like, I mean, like, as I said yesterday, like going into a studio, knowing I've got a bunch of random props left over from jobs and a bunch of lighting and just seeing what happens, having a few loose ideas is actually really exciting, creative. And sometimes that's missed a little bit. And, there's one particular client that I've shot for a long time, and they sort of trust me, and I give them a bunch of ideas, I get a bunch of props, but what's really great about them is they're not like we have to do this. So if I get there on the day and I go, do you know what, this actually isn't working, do you mind if we rejig this, or can I do this like unusual thing? They're quite open to it, and I think that is a little bit of a dying trait because I think everyone wants to kind of almost know exactly what they're getting before they go into the shoot, which it makes sense. They're spending lots of money and like, reshoots cost money and stuff like that. So I get it, but it sometimes does sap a little bit of the
Yeah, I hear you. I was always
creativity
quite
out of it.
surprised when when you get the brief from the advertising company, they want, and it would be a photograph exactly of what they were going to get, and it's like, well, you've already got it. But yes, I understand. Yes.
Yeah, no, a few
Yeah.
times I've like been sent renders for
Yeah,
shots. And I'm like,
exactly.
I mean, it kind of looks all right to me.
And, but so be it. Yeah, but so be it. Yeah.
But yeah,
I started first noticing your work, Joe, when you did your football project. So maybe you could tell our listeners a little bit more about what that involved.
Oh, yeah.
It's brilliant, I have to say.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, that was a long project. So actually, that's something I did with Mark Denton, who I talked about earlier. And me and Mark were pitching on a job, I think, circa 2016. And Mark had done some sketches, some layouts for it. And it was, I think I can say it was for, it's not, it was for Yorkie. And the idea was a man draw. And so, that kind of draw that everyone's got in their house, which is full of random bits and pieces. And one of the things he drew that might have been in the drawer was a comedy football card. And then Mark, being Mark, had then gone away and drawn 8 comedy football cards. And then the job never happened. And these Mark always prints stuff out on his wall. So whenever you go around his office, he's always got various, it's always an interesting place to look at. Because he's always like, oh, you want to shoot this? And there's like some random drawing he's done. And anyway, these football cards just sat on the wall, and we kept looking at them because I was at that point I wasn't living in London. I was traveling down to London, so I'd often sort of camp out in Mark's office to do a bit of work. And we kept looking at these cards, and we're like, "Oh, these are really good. We should do them." So we started shooting them, and the sort of idea evolved a little bit. So I think we ended up doing 6 days over a couple of years.
Oh wow! Okay.
And then And I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
it was quite because obviously it's a whole zine we created. I mean, there's 30 portraits plus a bunch of there's a couple we didn't use, plus there's a bunch of other like random shots that we created. Like obviously like Mark designed the football teams, and when we had these badges
Oh,
woven, and so I mean
yeah.
the craft that went into
Yeah.
that project, was insane. Like I did, yeah, like I mean it nearly broke me at the end because so. I'll talk about the pre-shoot stuff first because the post-production is a story in its own right, to get the look that we achieved. But yeah, I mean, the
Yes.
one thing on that is obviously the casting. Is everyone's like, oh, did you manipulate these photos? And it's like, no, these are like, this is just.
Yeah, I can
I
tell
love
that.
casting. It's one
Yeah.
of my favorite bits of the job, and yeah, and like I am a bit of an obsessive at points, and so is Mark. And we just, I mean, we must have gone. I'm not
Whoa.
exaggerating. We must have looked at 5,000 people for that. I exhausted every model agency, extras agency, like over the course of, we paid a couple of people to do some casting for us, plus we did our own casting. And obviously this was over a couple of years, so it's spread out. Plus we found people that we know, there's a few friends in there, like so just anyone that sort of looks like they could have been good.
Yes.
Obviously there's a picture of me in there.
Which
Don't
is
know if
brilliant.
anyone-
I love that one. That's very good. Every start you got there.
Yeah, exactly. And so yeah, the sort of whole pre-production process was just exhaustive, and then when we shot it, it was really interesting actually because like I obviously when you look at the original photo card, this is the thing. If you look at original football cards from the 70s, they are ridiculous, and you think these people can't exist. And they're all done quite crudely. So like like every shot that I did for the when we were actually shooting it, I'd use a different lighting setup. I just often just sort of do things that weren't right, kind of like, oh,
Mm.
just overlight it, do this,
Mhm.
put, and just sort of roll with it. And I think because I wanted each one to feel slightly different. So I mean, if I had to recreate some of those pictures, I'd probably struggle to remember what I did, because each one was different and often just chucked up. And I mean, a few last ones, there's a
Nice.
couple where I've
Yeah.
just put like a 2K Fresnel up and, that kind of but others I've just done sort of weird convoluted things, and I've also like the backgrounds of the football stadiums, like we
Yeah.
actually printed them out
Yeah.
as massive sort of backdrops and put them behind. Um, so just lots of different techniques that we used, and so it just sort of sort of rattled along, and then I think that we did the last shoot Feb 2020. Obviously we all know what happened then. So yeah, I mean I have to be honest though, like because the post production on this is insane. And I have to say, without COVID, I don't know how I'd have done it. I mean, I spent 2 months straight retouching every day on this, and they're not actually that over retouched. It's just a lot of because
Yeah.
all the shots have got wigs on, and so like inevitably with wigs, there's like bits because one of the things we did, and we used a hairstylist called Anna Longaretti, and she's an amazing hairstylist. She's actually retired now. She's sort of semi come out of retirement for that. And she sort of like basically uses these super cheap wigs, which you should not use for a photo shoot. They are not of sufficient
Perfect.
quality, but they are also ridiculous. So they require like obviously she's quite talented and she makes it look good, but obviously there's bits where the wig's falling apart or there's like the webbing showing through because these are just like cheap wigs she's acquired over the years that are not of the right
Totally
standard, but they
ridiculous for the
are.
project.
If you see the photos, you see what is.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you see why we use them. So there's quite a lot of cleanup on the wigs was required, which is exceptionally time consuming. But then also we wanted them to have this sort of vintage feel, and kind of the era feel. So we retouched them all, and then we printed them all out as risographs. I don't know if you've ever heard of a risograph. It's
Oh.
a
Okay.
terrible printer from the 80s. Um, Quite trendy in the art world, and it's sort of like it doesn't really do CMYK. You just kind of load in like plates that are loosely in the so you get and each print that comes off the risograph is slightly out of registration,
Okay.
so every one is
Nice.
slightly individual. Um, so you get all this like weird registration stuff. So we retouched them all. Then obviously there's all the design that went into the cards, which Mark and a couple of other people did. And then we printed them all out as risographs. Then
Wow.
we scanned them all back in, and then the risograph process is exceptionally strong. So what we ended up doing is ended up getting the original files and was using like the highlight detail from the original files and the sort of
Oh my
shadow
Lord.
mid-tone detail, and it was just as I ended up aligning them, and then so that was that process, and then other bits of the process were like there's a spread where we've got 8 cards, so we ended up printing all those out as business cards. sticking them to this piece so that this spread exists in reality. So sticking them to like a sort of like a fake sort of spread from a football sticker book and then rephotographing it. And then obviously you've lost a bit of quality on that. So then sort of retouch the pictures back in. But so you can see that the process was
but I think
extreme.
the point that really needs to be hammered home here, Joe, is that was for a personal project. You weren't commissioned to do that. That is something you spent all that time and effort on, something that you really believed in.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought it was fun and we enjoyed it. And like, yeah, I mean, the hours that went into that are not.
But in the end, it was though. But in the end, it was for commercially
I have had a
viable
few,
for you, Joe, because you got that started your career off, didn't it? Well, not started it, but that certainly helped your career.
Yeah, well, yeah, definitely. And do you know what? I mean, it was quite. It cost quite a lot of money, this whole thing. But you know what? I ended up getting a job for the Qatar World Cup, like an advertising commission, and I'm pretty sure it's from the footballers. And that paid for it. Like, so you know, it's sort of. I mean, I don't think people should believe this story because it is always, you know, it's this kind of classic story like, oh, you do a personal project, someone sees it, you get commissioned to shoot it, jobs are good. And I mean, I always believe that you just don't know what's going to happen from things, you know, like, you know, I did Mark and I did another project. The project we did before the footballers, which we did around 2016, was this they did these parodies of a Tretyakov painting. We just did it for a laugh. Like, so there's a friend of ours, Kate, who's a graphic designer. She's Chinese.
Oh yes.
There's this famous picture.
Yes, I know what you mean. Yeah,
the
blue skinned one, you saw on the 70s painting, yes.
Yeah. So Kate needed a business card. We said, let's shoot this picture of you. Before we know it, we've obviously got in super hard on it and, you know, and ended up doing what we did. But, you know, that had no goal. And we ended up it was in the Royal Academy. It's on TV. Paloma Faith's got a copy of it on her wall. And, you know, various other people have bought it. And that was just literally done. Well,
it was a great parody of a really famous 70s painting. Well, I used to see it in flats in London in the 90s. Everybody had it on their wall. In Camden, that was like de rigueur. If I just might move on to a little bit.
Yeah.
And I do appreciate, Sam, I am taking over a little bit here, so I do apologise.
Right. Well, I'll start one quick thing just to finish that off, Marcus, if that's right. And it was just, I think what came across to me there is detail. I'm getting the impression you have like an incredible focus on detail, the amount of detail you've gone to there, you know, in every part and every stage, you know, is that something like that really drives you along, that really, you know, you've got to have every part right to the nth degree, do you think?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying it's always a good quality because it sometimes takes quite a lot of my time. But yeah, I'm very detail orientated, and I think it is a good quality to have. But sometimes I go a little bit too far. Like sometimes I do need reining in, and you know it's. But I think it's also really important. I mean, sometimes when I'm doing things, I do like often on commercial jobs, I'm sort of working with people, and I'm like, I sort of find it bizarre that they've not considered the details. But that is just how my brain works. Like I think, I think it's really important and it probably shows in my work. It's an important part of the process for me is that to think about all the details. And I think it's probably why people like using me is that I mean, that's the thing, you know, if I do a job, no matter what the job is, it's like, it's 110%. Like I don't really know how to do a half job. It's like either I say no or I say yes, and you get all of me. And that's, I have been advised that I should like rate, you know, people are like, oh, you know, it's not as well a paid job. You should just like do a like half job. And it's, I
don't know how, but I just don't know how to do it. So I was just going to say, you've got such a strong style, and in that strong style has enabled you to move out into different genres of photography, in that you don't just photograph people now, you photograph food, you photograph still life, you photograph lots of different things, which, you know, in the marketing world is not seen as the right thing to do, but you do it. And the reason you get away with it, if I might say, Joe, is because it's so strong. You can look at each of your photographs and you can say, yeah, this is definitely a Giacomet photograph.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate you saying that. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I've sort of dabbled in lots of areas all over my life, and I sort of, you know, for a long time I had this bizarrely eclectic portfolio that just didn't really work together. And then I think like sort of around 2017, I think I started to get enough work like I could edit it down and make something that, even though it's like food or still life or like travel or this. Like, I mean, actually saying that travel, I've got a bunch of travel stuff that I've got that's not shown
Right.
anywhere. I don't know how to put it into my portfolio. Looks like it's been shot by a different person. It's very nicely done. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I'd like, for me, I guess like whenever there's a brief comes in or an idea for something, I just sort of research it. For me, it's all the same process, whether I'm taking a photo or making a video, or I mean, I've never designed a chair, but I'm sure it'd be the same thing. It's just sort of like, I don't know, I just think about it, and then I put a hat on, pretend I'm that person, um, who might be good at designing chairs or making videos or what have you, and just sort of think about what's the best possible way of doing it. So yeah, no, I actually really enjoy shooting lots of things. Like I don't know. Sometimes because I do shoot quite a lot of
Mm.
food, or not so much recently, but I have done a lot in sort of recent years. And I have done some like quite long food shoots, which have been like 3 or 4 weeks. And by the end of that, I am
Wow.
sort of craving a kind of like more kind of involved creative shoot. But then I do the more involved creative shoots. I'm like, oh, do you know what? I really want like a nice
Yeah.
chill still life
Yeah. Well,
shoot.
it's great that you can you're
So
able to in a
yeah,
position where you can choose that, in what genre to work in. May I ask? Do you rep yourself? Do you find the work yourself, or are you got an agent? How does that work with you, Joe?
yeah. I mean, there's lots of different. I mean, I've sort of classically, I got signed by quite a well-known agent around 2010, and then I had
Mm.
6 years of
Hmm.
poverty, I had no work, and then I got with a different agent, and then that kind of thing started moving. And in the last couple of years, I've
Right.
actually been self-repping, and the reason I've done that is that only in the UK. Like I still have an agent in America and the EU. But yeah, I just sort of found it was working well for me. But I have a sort of, I can't really say who
Yes.
it is right now because it's like, until it's like until I'm on their website, I don't want to like announce something like that, but it's pretty much a given deal. But I've just sort of signed with a new agent. Um, and the reason yeah, I mean, I think self-repping can work, but I think it requires a lot of contacts. And it's one thing to bear in mind is that I do not have some like bank of contacts. I moved to London as a
Wow.
20-year-old, knowing no one, and all these people I know in advertising and all that, like they're just people I've met along the way. It's not like there's some
And that's
family
really nice to
contacts
know for
or
new
XYZ.
photographers
It's
coming up,
just
isn't it?
so
That
I
yeah,
don't think people
you
should.
can just come in and just get in there, meet people, and you can do it. You don't need to kind of come in with that
Mm.
background.
Yeah, no, I mean, I knew. I mean, I obviously, as I previously alluded to, like, I mean, I actually, believe it or not, at the end of 2015, I kind of gave up photography because I got to 30. I think it was 30. I think I said I've been signed to an agent for 5 years. I was absolutely broke, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, and
Yeah.
then I sort of gave up for about a month. I had other plans, I'm not going to lie, which were creative, and then I ended up getting a campaign in for 3M, and then that just sort of started snowballing it. But I was, like, I got to the point where I was like, I
Mm.
think my profit for
Mm.
1 year was like 8 grand or something. It's like,
Yeah.
I can't do this anymore. I was doing all sorts of random stuff just to make money. I was like, did a bit of driving for
Oh, yes.
FedEx at one point and sort of various bits and pieces. No, but like in that period, yeah, I mean that's one thing to bear in mind. It's like it's not always the sunny story that social media alludes to. But in that period where I was not getting a lot of work, a lot of people, and I was also like contacting a lot of junior creatives, and that sort of like panned out long term because they then
Yeah.
sort of became like more senior creatives. Like, there's a creative team that I sort of met, when they were sort of starting their career, and then 6 years later they gave me my
Oh,
first
wow.
directing gig
Yeah.
for McDonald's. And so like, these, yeah, and that's because they knew, and I'd done a photo shoot for them, and they sort of knew that I could do it. So I just I yeah, just contacted lots of people, and also talk about. I mean, this is a tip for marketing for people because I get sporadic emails from people saying they want to work with me, but they've clearly not like looked at my work. And like, do you know what? Like, if you're gonna get in touch with someone, literally just take a 4 second look at their website, pick a random project, tell them you like it. Obviously, if you've got time or you're interested,
Yeah.
look at more. But just that cursory bit of just shows that you've not copy and pasted it. Go like, oh, that thing you
Yeah.
did for
Yeah.
X, that was great, or I love the colors in blah. It's like it literally takes all of like, all right, maybe like 4 seconds, maybe like a couple of minutes at tops. if you're really in a rush. And it's but yeah, I just did that with lots of people. I just got in touch with loads of people, and obviously, there's contacts that I met while I was an assistant. There was like art directors that I'd met while I was an assistant. I sort of stayed in touch with them, not stepping on the photographer's toes. It wasn't like I was working for photographers at the time, but and then obviously, yeah, and obviously, like the guy I mentioned before, Mark, obviously we've met in 2010 when I was an assistant. We just loosely stayed in touch. I showed him work, and then around 2016, he was like, "Oh, do you want to do this?" Or maybe, yeah, I think it's 2015, I can't remember. No, it was 2016, yeah. And like, there's just all these. I just nurtured lots of contacts over a long time, and I have to say, actually, one of the reasons why I've been going recently getting an agent is that where I've been quite busy, I've kind of neglected my marketing, and I think that's like kept me rolling for a while. But I do feel like I kind of want to push up to a sort of level above what I'm doing now, and I think I need.
That's interesting because we have just done a show about consistency in marketing, saying just that. Yeah, you need to find something you can do.
Yeah, I mean, I've not done any marketing since. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've not sent out, apart from the footballers, which I sent out in 2020, I've not sent out anything other than stuff on social media, and I've not really done any like actual emailing or seeing people since about 2018.
Yeah, you're busy,
but that's
Joe.
just because I've been really busy.
Well, that's
which is great.
Of course, yeah.
But it wasn't like that for a long time, and this is the thing. Like I said, it is worth. I don't know. It's been. Things have been good since 2018, 2016, 2017 was like, okay, this might be working. But yeah, 2012 to 2015 was dark in terms of work. Like I was not doing well, and I was just like carrying on making things and doing what I could and pottering along. But yeah, it was I felt like I was just like banging my head against this wall, like trying to please someone look at my work. It's actually not that bad. And like no one was giving me any work.
Wow, what an incredible conversation. As you can probably tell, I'm a massive fan of Joe's work. So we've really gone into detail about what it takes to be a top commercial photographer. We've talked about the power of a strong photography style and how it can help you get more work. We've also discussed how focusing on your own personal projects can lead to amazing commercial opportunities. Finally, we've shown you why a deep focus on every little detail can make all the difference to the quality of your work.
And don't forget that you can get for free the Commercial Photographer Guide to Creativity and Marketing. After all, that's what this show is all about. To get your free download, all you need to do is go to our website at commercial-photographer-podcast.com/creativity. Let me do that one again. commercial-photographer-podcast.com/creativity. And from there, you can get your free guide from us to marketing and creativity.
But it paid off in the end. Right, we are, Joe, it has been amazing speaking to you, but we are running out of time. It's been a fantastic conversation. We could be here another 3 hours, but we do have to finish at some stage. So, yeah, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for being with us. Yes, Joe, again, amazing. Thank you so much.
It's been lovely chatting.
And amazing. And Marcus, see you next week.
See you next week, and thank you from myself, Joe, as well. Thanks, brilliant.
And thanks for listening to this week's episode. If you want to make sure you never miss a show, head to our website and sign up for the newsletter. We'll be back next week with more practical advice to help you grow your business. See you next time.